Welcome to my 7-step framework to vision for any year, any time of the year, because vision and casting vision is not just for the new year. So in the 7-part framework, we are going to be diving into meditations and lessons learned, what we're bringing and leaving into whether it's the new year, the new month, the new quarter, then words or phrases for the year. Beyond that, we'll be getting into my custom vision framework that aligns to 7 steps to success. And from there, we'll be getting into visualization and vision boards, because New Year's is not the only time to do that. And then I'll be sharing as we go some supportive materials, what I use, what's really helped me to help you really get a lot of value from this video and from this series. I'm Katrina Julia. I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur and transformation coach, and I've traveled to over 36 countries as of this recording. And I love helping people create and scale what they love. I've worked in 7+ industries. I am a creator and CEO of an all-in-one lifestyle brand, here to help you create it. Who else is like me? I found this shirt, you guys, or this sweatshirt. Yes, I'm cold, me 24/7. If it drops below 70, that is me 100% of the time now. So let's get into lessons learned. So whether you are doing this activity for the prior year or the prior month or the prior quarter, it is so important to reflect on what you learned along the way. So for example, in 2022, I learned massively, like as I came back and was restabilizing and having a home in one place and having a home base, there was different things that came up on me not necessarily feeling safe, stable, or secure, that I didn't realize I was revisiting from the pandemic before I went to go travel full time. So in those moments, I recognized from about June, but really in the fall of 2022, where I would allow myself to be discouraged or in despair or depressed or anxious, and, in a sense, sometimes numb out. And what that looked like sometimes was like taking a day that's for some may look like self-love, and in those moments, maybe it was, but also giving myself the grace, whether I was listening to positive messages or sermons, or whether I was watching movies. But then in December, I said, okay, Katrina, you get to start shifting out of this. And how can you counter these, feelings, these emotions? How can you shift them to self-love? How can you heal them? And one of the things was, increasing self-love in different ways, whether that was journaling, a walk outside. But beyond that, it was also deciding to do a different action. Like I had never felt like that before 2020 or those periods in the fall of 2022. So then I started realizing, wait a minute, when you're on your womanly time, when you were traveling, you would still travel sometimes. So get out and do stuff, and don't allow yourself to accept that that's, the norm or how you feel, right? And so I also didn't wait for the new year to jump in, to start living out my phrase, like I am divinely disciplined. I started that in December. So what are the lessons learned for you in 2022, or again, depending on when you're listening to this, last month, last quarter, last year, last week, and how are you going to shift that, whether that's internally with things like affirmations, prayers, journaling. I went floating yesterday in Atlanta, and no, not floating on a river, but floating in a tank for an hour in basically a suspended state in an area in a tank that's full of dense salt, way beyond your typical Epsom salt that you put in the bath. And the level of clarity that I got from that hour of silence, and then the journaling and actions to take after. So what are your lessons learned? give yourself grace, and then start thinking about how you might shift those as different things come up for you, whatever that looks like for you. There is so much to be grateful for. Like waves of the ocean is the ebb and flow of our lives. Whether it's the breath in our lungs, the ability to speak, the ability to walk, aspects of our health, aspects and thinking about the things that we have in our homes, in our suitcases, the family and the friends all around us, the walks that we take, the workouts we enjoy, the food we consume every single day, the water that we're able to enjoy, whether it's bathing, whether it's drinking, whatever it is, in whatever form we have it. The sunshine above our heads. The ability to turn pain into purpose. The passions we pursue, the purpose we live, the careers we have, the family and friends we have, the small yet profound blessings all around us. I invite you to write a list of 100 things you are grateful for. So you've walked through what you're grateful for, whether it's the last year, whether you decided to do 100 things that you're grateful for, whether it's, last week, last month, whatever the time frame is for you, okay? Now, out of that state, I want you to think about what you're bringing into this next season. Like, out of all the things that you were grateful for, what are you choosing to take in? What are you choosing to keep? What are you choosing to develop and grow? And then, and feel free to hit pause with me, and then I want you to think about the things that did not align and the things that you are choosing to leave, okay? So an example for me would be choosing to, for example, engage, even when it's with close or closer people, when perhaps the situation or the circumstance or the communication between those people is not on the same plane. Meaning, you can see whether you yourself or me, myself, or others are spiraling in a negative state. So it doesn't matter. Whatever love you're showering onto them, they're not receiving it. So years ago, I've definitely walked through that where people or situations would try to shower me with love, and I wasn't ready to receive, and I was so in a particular mindset or a particular projection or perception of being or seeing something as negative that I wasn't ready or willing to receive that. And as my awareness or as I grew and evolved, I was able to recognize that and pause or change it and transform it. And in some situations recently, I saw when others are in that state too, that sometimes the best thing you can do is love, agree to disagree, and really not engage because the communication is not aligned, and or people won't see things a certain way, or if the reactions are solely out of defense, even when you're giving love and not even trying to entice or engage, defensiveness, like you're not, reacting, you don't have an attitude, but the person's perceiving it like that, then, that's where boundaries come in different ways. It's choosing maybe to communicate in different ways. It's choosing maybe to communicate less. It's choosing sometimes to shift the approach or love from a distance, whatever that is. So that's just one of the examples. Another example that I'm sure many of you will relate is I am not inviting or allowing or accepting scarcity, lack, or despair into my future. So I'm very, very aware, because I've taken a bold stance and standing firm in faith, that when those things come up, it's like, okay, where or how do I get to change my mind here? Where or how do I get to transition this? Whether it's an internal state with affirmations or prayer or journaling, whether it is an action to counter that and shift, those neural pathways, or whether it's both, because inevitably it ends up being both, but sometimes in the moment it's the one thing, right? So those are, a couple of examples of what I'm choosing to leave behind me, and I see where I, allowed or invited or accepted those things from my past or from family or culture or the world. And a lot of that, you've already seen or experienced, and I invite you to do this over and over and over, is forgiveness letters to yourself and or to others, love letters to yourself and or to others, and future state love letters to yourself, okay? Because what's gonna happen, like, I've recorded my forgiveness letter to myself. I've recorded my love letter to myself, my future state to myself. And oftentimes, as part of my self-love and reframing my mind, I will listen to those, because faith comes by hearing, okay? So, and part of that, it's super powerful to hear things in your own voice. That's why you hear people say your prayers out loud, say your affirmations out loud, say your vision out loud, right? So what is that for you on what you're bringing and or leaving behind